and it just wasn't what it needed to be. And if you can have Callaway and Hollins and Lindenbaum Jr. just go out on the boundaries and run the routes that they're supposed to run and not have to read anything and make those quick decisions, then and put a receiver in there that the quarterback is more comfortable with his decisions, that he's going to drop into the right zone, it would make it easier for the quarterbacks. And none of them can do it. Jakeem can't do it. Malcolm, I don't even think he's that good of a slot receiver. Bowden clearly is struggling from an understanding the offense standpoint based on the fact that they just won't play him, can't play him, don't feel comfortable with him. Callaway, same thing, but Callaway probably knows some of the outside spots. So it just makes sense. Devontae in the slot. It does. Plus, it'll prevent teams from shading a safety over to him.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that they're saying it so much probably means that they're not going to do it, or just trying to make Cincinnati think they're going to do it. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because Flores is not a volunteer information kind of guy.
Yeah, I would think you don't have to play mind games with Cincinnati. I mean,
yeah, but why would you as a coach, like a coordinator and a coach, tell us if you're not trying to like send messages?
Well, unless you want to convince the player that we're going to use you that way. I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a Jimmy Johnson way. You got to convince the player that this is the right thing for you. And it is right. It does make sense. It does make sense. Devontae is the most seasoned guy. He's the best receiver. He's a big target. You could put it in just a space for him, and more than likely he can get it. Like, I've always thought Preston would be an ideal slot because he could give you run after catch. But Devontae gave you run after catch last week. I was surprised, but it's there.
How bad is Malcolm Perry?
Huh?
How bad is that injury to him?
We'll find out today, to be honest with you, whether or not he practices. But he's tiny, he's small. He's going to have the same Jakeem syndrome where no matter how little he plays, the minute somebody hits him, it's possibly season ending. So it is what it is.
So Tyreek Hill has that problem too, but nobody can catch him. So that'd be that's the issue there, right?
Totally different player, Dave. Yeah, Dolphins would love to have a Tyreek Hill. That's what they need to go find. Did you promote the show, Dave?
I gotta tweet that out, so thanks.
Yep.
And turn off my phone.
Volume turned off. Volume on your phone turned off, Dave.
Yeah, yep, I got it.
All right. Ready to go when you guys are.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Let me get my stats page ready. Alrighty. Damn it. Shows the wrong stats page. Okay. I'm ready to go when you guys are.
All right.
Well, December games have arrived, and this is the month in the NFL where we separate the pretenders from the contenders. I'm Omar Kelly, Sentinel, columnist Dave Hyde. My colleague here, Dave. The Miami Dolphins they pulled off a 20-3 victory over the New York Jets. No surprise there. And I'm not even sure the Jets are even trying to win. And that put the team in position to qualify for the postseason, Dave. Miami presently sits sixth in the seeding. 7 teams get into the playoffs in this conference. Miami's in a heated battle with the Baltimore Ravens, the Indianapolis Colts, the Cleveland Browns, the Las Vegas Raiders for those wild card spots. 3 wild card spots now because of the new CBA, and they need to keep winning to keep pace. Nobody expected the Dolphins to be here, Dave. Nobody. We all predicted 7 wins for this season, 7-9 for the season, Dave. If Miami takes care of business. What'd you say?
A little surprising. I agree. Yep, this is it's a fun run so far.
If Miami takes care of business this Sunday against the Bengals, this team will be at the doorsteps of qualifying for the postseason for the first time since 2016, and before that, 2008. Does this team have what it takes, Dave, to make it to the playoffs?
They do, and in that I'll get away from the team itself and just look at the schedule. For a while, the last 4 games looked like they could be very difficult 4 games, and they're not. You got the Raiders, who are 6-5. They lost to Atlanta last week, and you got New England, who they lost to Arizona. They're just another team this year, and so you have a couple tough games, Kansas City and at Buffalo, but what looked like it could set up to be a murderer's row down the stretch isn't that. And so you got the Bengals this week. You can get to 10 wins, and that should get you in the playoffs just fine.
Yeah, definitely. 10 is the magic number for me. If you look at some of the teams in terms of who they play and who's on their schedule, some of the teams are going to eliminate themselves. We also never know how COVID is going to factor into the equation. COVID, at any point, you could lose your starting quarterback or 2/3 of your offensive line. So that's a factor in itself. And I really do believe that the Dolphins are built to withstand all of those issues, all of the injuries. The question is, they can't suffer another injury in terms of an important player. Right now, they've got, one good receiver out there on the field? And you can't have key players miss injuries like last week against Tua with the thumb injury. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But right now, I think they're in position to get to 10. They just can't afford any slippage.
Yeah, they don't, especially on offense. They don't have playmakers. They don't have enough really to say, okay, they can go whichever way a game will bend. Like the good teams, the contending teams. And to me, they're not contenders if we're talking for the big prize. They're contenders for a playoff spot. Which, look, as you said in your opener, nobody predicted them to be able to do that this year. So that in itself is a good season. But there are limits on what they can do. I think everybody sees that.
Yeah, let's crawl before we walk, and start. When we say pretenders, contenders, we're talking about playoff contenders. We're not talking about title contenders. I don't think they're there yet. I'm sure that'll offend Brian Flores too, by the way. Let's get our first question, which comes from Call of Duty. I love that name. As a fan, are we putting the cart in front of the horse? There's so many weaknesses on this team. We should focus on finishing the rebuild rather than getting to the playoffs. The playoffs are a nice carrot, but I want the entire farm. I want a championship. Sticking to topic here. Your thoughts, Dave?
My thought is that those are not mutually exclusive ideas. You can continue the rebuild and look at the roster. We're in the middle of a rebuild still. You can do that. And you can make the playoffs. Buffalo did it in their first year of a rebuild. They made the playoffs, and that didn't throw them off track at all. The problem for the Dolphins in the other years, 2008, 2016, they thought they were further along in the rebuild because they made the playoffs. The question isn't making the playoffs. That's a nice achievement. It'd be a real nice achievement for this team. What you have to do, though, is understand where you are in the rebuild, and this team still has a long way if we're talking contending for a title. And don't get caught up in like 2008 and 16 when they fell for the trap that they were further along than they really were.
Yeah, and they thought they just needed some finishing pieces. I agree with you. I still think this offensive line is one good lineman away from being respectable, not even good, respectable. Definitely, without a doubt, we know they need a running back. They need an inside linebacker. They probably need a better defensive tackle and a little bit more coming from the edges. But yeah, we understand this is not a finished product, but it's good enough right now to, without a doubt, I think they should get to 9. The question is, can they get to 10? And they certainly can't afford any slippage against Cincinnati. You got to go and take care of business. And then you got to take 2 from New England, and the leading suspect is Las Vegas Raiders, and maybe you can dethrone Buffalo. You never know what'll happen in the season finale. Even though I know Dolphin seasons go to die in Buffalo in December. That's just the nature of what happens to this
Oh, you know
franchise.
how many times been in Buffalo and going back to Dan Marino in January and the cold and just awful trips.
Yeah,
Bad memories, Omar.
but
Bad
listen,
memories.
I'll give Flores credit. All that old, that's so Dolphin stuff. We got to get that out of our head, Dave. We got to get it.
They got to play it out of our heads. So question 2 comes from Aaron, and he really wants to look ahead. Say we squeeze into the playoffs, does this team have enough to maybe, possibly pull out a playoff win? Are we ahead of schedule on the rebuild?
I think they're definitely ahead of schedule on the rebuild. Are they a finished product? No. But their defense, they're a top 3 defense. I'm not even going to say top 5 because I looked them up this year. They're 3rd right now. They've got a top 5 defense. Let's be conservative here. And if you look at it, if you can run the ball and you can play great defense, you can win. Look at Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. And I say Ryan Tannehill when it really should be Derrick Henry and the Tennessee Titans. Who would have thought Ryan Tannehill would take the Tennessee Titans to the AFC Championship game? Absolutely nobody. But he did it. He did it because he had a good defense. He had a good running game. I think if you can get to that point where you can run the ball consistently, effectively, and you can stop the run, which, we've been doing these shows for years, but all season, what have I been talking about, Dave? What have I been hammering that it's the missing ingredient for this team? Ability to stop the run and ability to run the football. Now, if you can't do those things, then you're clearly a pretender. But I think if they can find a way in the last 5 games of the season to fix the run game and tighten up a little bit on run defense, I think they have a chance to win a game, win a first-round game, maybe sneak up an opponent and win a second-round game.
Yeah, I'm not going to dismiss their chances in the playoffs. I think a lot of that will come down to match. They're 3-1 against the NFC West, which is considered the tough division in football right now. So they've shown they can beat good teams, or teams. Those teams had flaws when the Dolphins played them, but they still beat them. So to me, it's another question though. Are we talking winning a playoff game, or are we talking about sustainability of winning? And those are 2 different things. Tennessee, for instance, won a playoff game. They're wavering on sustainability of winning.
They're a little close. They're pretty decent.
Right. Yeah. But to sustain your winning, you need some bedrock answers at key positions, quarterback.
Tennessee's got that in Ryan Tannehill, Dave.
Well, you don't have the answer yet. You have the hope. You have the hope. He hasn't gone out and
he's a top 8 quarterback in the NFL. I'm uncomfortable saying it, but he is. He keeps winning.
I haven't seen. We saw one great game from him, Arizona. That's the game they need to get to. And if you can get to that game regularly, and he's going to need help. He needs more help around him. But if they can get to that game, I agree with you. Then he is. So I'm just going to hesitate and let it happen before calling him a top 8 quarterback, Omar, like you are. So that's
you're being conservative on the Ryan Tannehill praise.
Comes from George. What is the main reason they can't stop the run? Is it the linebackers, defensive line, or scheme?
I think it's all of the above. Let's go there. I've never really been a fan of this scheme, and that's going back to the Patriots days. I always said, and I'm sure Brian Flores takes issue with it, that the Patriots defense, it's easy to play defense when you're playing with a lead. Tom Brady generally gives you a lead about 70% of the game. When you see this defense struggle, it's because they're not playing with the lead, and they can't be as aggressive defensively on blitzes and packages. I have an issue with that right side in terms of Emmanuel Ogbah, Kyle Van Noy, Eric Flowers, and I'm calling names for a reason, because right now they're pretty soft on that right side. If you're a team and you're looking at the Miami Dolphins film, you say to yourself, I can run to the right. And there's nothing really stopping me there. And unless there's reinforcements coming, or these players get better with Kavanaugh in the hip and Eric Rowe and his run fits and Emmanuel Ogba and his edge setting. Until you improve in those areas, I think a good running team can really gobble you up. Think about, let's just say this. They played the Tennessee Titans in round one. Let's get to the playoffs. Play the Tennessee Titans in round one. You don't think Tennessee's going to give you a steady diet of power, right? All game long?
That wouldn't be a good matchup for them. That would not be a good match. And it's not just good running teams. Look, the Jets. Your guy, Frank Gore, your guy.
Yeah.
You were praising him last week. Had a season high.
Till Gase pulled the plug on him, he was running pretty good.
And so, look, when Frank Gore has, what do you have, 78 yards, 70, and his previous high was 63 this year. I mean, that tells you have a problem. Look, everybody knows they've had a problem. The only question is why teams haven't got to it. And that gets into, where the way the game was bending that day. It goes into play calling, some on the offense and play. But to the answer is that the linebacker, defensive liners can't. Until you get a stronger defensive line in there, and then to me, I can't even get to scheme and all that. I need some standout defensive linemen, and not they have some average defensive linemen. You just need somebody to say, okay, here's who they have to block to run the ball.
I hear what you're saying. You're saying they need one guy to raise his hand and say, "This is my line. This yes. I own this line of scrimmage." And I get you. I think getting Christian Wilkins back helped. Raekwon Davis has been up and down, hot and cold, and I'm starting to think it's really dependent on the matchup. He's very, if you put him against the center and you put him at the one technique and you just tell him, okay, destroy the center, I think he's good. It's just when you ask him to do a little bit more, I think that's when he struggles.
And again, that gets to the position. It's hard for rookies to step in at defensive tackle and be consistently dominant. I mean, it just rarely happens that way. Year 2, year 3, even year 4, that's when defensive linemen become who they are. So the team, they're relying on a lot of key young players. That's the rebuild. I mean, that's part of it. But I think at some of these positions, you need to get a little further down the line of the rebuild so you know exactly who they are.
Our next question comes from Money Making Mitch, another great name. Will the return of Myles Gaskin improve the run game, Dave?
It can't hurt it, Omar. It cannot hurt it. Yeah, it has to improve it. He was their top back for the time he's been healthy. So anytime you can get the guy you consider the best in there, he has to help it. I'm not going to go overboard and say, boy, that's makes them a dynamic running game or anything. They struggle there, and it's the line, it's the running backs, and they're looking around for answers. Maybe Myles Gaskin, he'll help them, but he's not going to solve the issue.
Here's the biggest issue for me with the running backs, and yes, Myles Gaskin coming back, if he's healthy, it'll help you. He's averaging 3.9 yards per carry. Getting Ahmed back is definitely going to help them. He's averaging 4.2 yards per carry, but he's banged up with a shoulder injury. The issue is you're not getting any big runs. The Dolphins have had 2 plays running of over 20 yards this season, 2, Dave, and one came from a receiver. And then the other one was from Myles Gaskin for 21 plays. They're not getting to the second level. They're not getting chunk yard plays. And that's been a problem. It's handcuffed the average. The Dolphins have the worst rushing average per attempt in the NFL. And yeah, I'm not going to be disrespectful and say that a lot of it doesn't have to do with the fact that they're leading big and have to run out the clock to eat the game. But that was another issue, whereas they struggled with that. And last week, interestingly enough, because of DeAndre Washington, they were able to run a what they call a 4-minute or 6-minute 4-minute offense. It really turned into a 6-minute offense where they killed the final 6 minutes of the clock.
You're going against an 0-11 team that's down double digits.
They quit.
I mean,
They're going through the motions to get the
give
game
some
over with.
credit there. Give them some credit for giving up.
As they should, which is why Adam Gase is still there.
All right. The Miami Dolphins fan base has been having the great debate of 2020, as have the media. Tua Tagovailoa or Ryan Fitzpatrick? Which quarterback should be starting for the Dolphins down this final stretch? The offense has looked slightly better with Fitzpatrick under center, more consistently. He has better chemistry with Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, and can read defenses better. But Tua clearly has more upside. He just needs to go through the growing pains to get where this franchise needs to be. Is sacrificing a chance to make it to the postseason worth it, Omar? Let's jump right into that question.
Yeah, let's jump into the question with a question from DJ Bob, who asks, if you were the Dolphins head coach, would you keep Fitz in as the starter or bring back Tua if the thumb is healed, Dave?
Well, to me, and I've been this from very early on, you put Tua in and you play him, you let him learn, and you hope and look, at this point in the year, you should be seeing progress from him. You should be seeing more consistent play. And that's why you drafted him fifth. He was going to go first, possibly, if you hadn't hurt. So you got a top tier talent at quarterback, and now he needs some NFL experience, and the only way to get that is throw him out there. So everybody appreciates Ryan Fitzpatrick, but he is what he is. Okay, he didn't have a great game against the Jets. He made some very smart veteran decisions, but there wasn't anything dynamic there. Tua gives you the chance to be dynamic if he can get to his game.
You don't believe in Fitz magic? You don't believe that we can get more Fitz magic, Dave?
Well, if you're asking who to play, I'm saying Tua. Could Fitzpatrick get you to the playoffs? Yeah, you can get there. Yeah, I think you could get there with either of these guys at this point.
That's fair.
But I want Tua in there, as I think you do, too, because it's the best for the franchise right now to get him on the learning curve as everybody else.
He does not have chemistry with Mike Gesicki. He does not have chemistry with Devontae Parker. Those are your two top playmakers on offense. Unless he's going to instantly develop chemistry with some of these other receivers who really aren't even worth mentioning names right now because they haven't really done anything. I think it's going to cost Miami a game. I think over the course of the stretch of these 5 games, I think you're probably going to lose one that you might be able to win with Ryan Fitzpatrick as your starting quarterback. Now, the question is it worth it? And my answer to that question is having Tua, giving him 9 games of experience will be worth it in 2021, will be worth it in 2022, will be worth it in 2023, and it needs to be done. And it's an uncomfortable thing to say. I put a poll out there on Twitter, and understand, Dave, this is new thinking for me. As you know, I'm always locked into the season. I'm like Brian Flores. I don't know who's split next week. It's about what you need to do to win this game. It's about what you need to do to get to the playoffs. And this season, I'm taking those blinders off, and I'm saying it's about the franchise and what you need to do to build a healthy franchise, what you need to do to find the weapons that Tua needs in order to be successful in the future, what you need to do to assess and evaluate this line to figure out what you need next. And there's no better time to do that in these final games. And if it costs Miami the playoffs, I'm okay with it. I'm uncomfortable saying it, but I am. Now, I hope it doesn't, but I am.
You know what? If he's what you think he is, it shouldn't cost you the playoffs. He should be able to play at Ryan Fitzpatrick's level.
Eventually, in time. Even Chan said there's no question he's not going to be able to operate the offense like Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He's not going to be able to read defenses. He's not going to be able to, go to the different options that Ryan Fitzpatrick can. But his sheer talent level should be higher, that he can make dynamic plays that Ryan Fitzpatrick can't. I mean, that's why you drafted him. That's why you think he's a top 8 quarterback in the league, Omar. If you don't, then you're in a real bind then, because then he's just another quarterback. You got him because you saw top shelf talent.
You saw special.
It needs to come out. I mean, it needs to come out. And you know what? the tricky situation for Brian Flores is if Tua struggles this Sunday, because you just saw Fitzpatrick have an okay. I mean, he won the game in the Jets. There wasn't anything great about it, but he won. And you saw Parker get more targets to him than any time this year. You saw Gesicki get the ball, and if Tua struggles and doesn't get the ball as much to the playmakers as the team sees it, then you do have a quarterback question. You know that they're just human too, and they're asking the same thing are, and then it becomes a trickier issue to maneuver. So if you're Brian Flores, you're beyond the obvious reason you want to quell any quarterback issues. You want him to have a good game against a bad Bengals team.
And if he doesn't,
well then, to me, I'm rolling with Tua at this point. You've gone down this line. You just keep going. But if you have to bench him again, if he's that bad, then you got, let's get there. But
so you're willing to do what it takes to let's get there.
Well, look, you didn't go into the Denver game saying, boy, if Tua is really bad, I'm going to bench him, right? I never thought about it.
No.
And these issues will take care of themselves when you get there. There's no reason to. I thought Brian Flores was right in benching Tua. He was.
I agree.
And he wasn't going to get anything done in that game. So if you're trying to win the game, put in Fitzpatrick and give it a chance. So our next question comes from Dean G. If Ryan Fitzpatrick is not back next year, what kind of backup QB do we get? We're really looking forward to next year, aren't we? Down the line, do we sign a veteran QB or draft one? It is clear we may need 2 QBs.
Without a doubt, you need 2 quarterbacks. And I hope Ryan Fitzpatrick is willing, able, and gets an offer from the Dolphins to come back, because I think he's the great veteran leader that Tua needs. One, Ryan has told me he doesn't want to get into coaching. I think he is going to eventually get into coaching, but that's his makeup. He's built to be a coach. Now, he doesn't want to do it because of the hours that it involves. But I think
5 kids. He's got 7. How many kids does he have?
Yeah.
7.
He's got 7 kids.
He's got time for coaching.
Correct. But I think if you can have him here as a veteran quarterback to serve as a continuous mentor to Tua, I mean, I love the clips. I would want NFL networks to mic up Ryan Fitzpatrick and see that every week. See him coach up Tua on the sideline. See him talk him up, because I think I've seen a couple of the clips and they're magical. And the youngster is soaking it all up and he's taking it all in. And I think that's the perfect mentorship and relationship for him. Yeah, Fitz is hurt. He's hot. He wants to lead a team to the playoffs finally in his career. He thinks this is his opportunity, and it gets taken away from him. But he minimized his ego in order to help Tua, and I think that's healthy. And I'd rather do that than go with a veteran like a Tyrod Taylor, who the Dolphins flirted with 2 years ago before they signed Fitz, or I'm a big Joshua Dobbs fan, and he's going to be a free agent. I would love to see a young quarterback like that come in, but I do agree. You need to add quarterbacks to this team. If we've known anything about Tua during his college career, there's a fragility element to it. There's a durability element to it. So at some point, you're going to have to play some games with another quarterback. And I would love for it to be a young quarterback that they can develop, whether it be a used first or second or third. And I'm not opposed to using a first-round pick on another quarterback. I believe quarterback competition until you have the absolute guy that you want. North Dakota State's Trey Lance. I've been told by my people in the NFL that I need to get my behind out there and see BYU's Zach Wilson. In terms of watching his game, people who are in the know tell me that's the dude. And then Florida's Kyle Trask, very good quarterback. He's supposed to be a guy probably taken in the second day. I'm not a Gator fan, but I got to admit, he looking pretty good, Dave. And
that's going to be a tough issue, because this offense to go is going to need playmakers. Okay, you can find a running back, hopefully bottom of first, second round. I don't know how the draft's pointing this year just yet.
Yeah.
But to get a premier receiver, a lot of time are going in the top. That'd be the top 15.
Jarvis
That'd be the
Landry was
Houston
premier
pick.
receiver. He went in the second round.
Well, I'm saying you can always find Tom Brady went in the sixth round, but typically the better talent goes higher, and so it'll be interesting. I'm with you. You keep taking a quarterback till you know you have one, but it'll be interesting to see how they massage all the needs on this rebuild with what they already have.
You got 2 firsts, you got 2 seconds. You can afford to use a quarterback with one. I'm sorry. Like people act like, oh, we if we take another quarterback, that it's going to be some sacrilegious thing that you all of a sudden you don't believe into it. No, it's not that. Why shouldn't a quarterback compete like everybody else in the NFL? You know what the Dolphins did to Cameron Wake, who was a 4-time Pro Bowl player? They drafted Olivier Vernon. The next year, they drafted Deion Jordan. Those were 2 guys who were supposed to replace Cameron Wake. You know what Cameron kept doing? He kept balling. Why can't a quarterback?
You know why they don't is just because you heard how Brian Flores talked. He said this is Tua's team. No one said this is Cameron Wake's team because they don't talk about defensive ends like that. They talk about quarterbacks that way. I'm with you. Keep going for quarterbacks until you have one, and even when you have one,
keep drafting
to develop. So
how many quarterbacks did New England draft? Like they just kept drafting quarterbacks, even though they had Tom Brady for 16,000 years. Like I never understood the scared mentality that, oh my God, a quarterback can't compete. Oh, we should be scared. Like, no.
How has Aaron Rodgers reacted to them drafting a quarterback in the first round this year? He's having a pretty good year. So even the old veterans need to be pushed. I think back to Jimmy Johnson's first or second year. He went around the draft room and asked all his assistants what they thought should be the number 1 draft pick. And he got to his pro personnel director, Tom Bratz, who said, we need a quarterback. And everybody chuckled because we got Dan Marino. What do you mean we need a quarterback? Well, Dan Marino was 35 at the time, roughly. And so he was saying, we need to think about tomorrow because it's coming. And that's what I'm not, obviously the Dolphins aren't there. It's a completely different situation now. But you always need to add quarterbacks is the bottom line here.
I don't want leftover quarterbacks. That's my problem. And I'm not comfortable with if Ryan Fitzpatrick comes back, I'm still drafting a quarterback.
Yeah.
I want another quarterback.
All right. Michael wants to know, Omar, who's the best rookie straight up this year and most valuable rookie relative to draft position?
Well, I'm going to keep Tua out of this equation because he's only played 4 games. Yes, he's led the team to a 3-1 record, but if we're going to be honest with ourselves, he's really only delivered clutch play against Arizona. I'm going to have to go with Austin Jackson as the top rookie performer. Yes, he's given up sacks recently coming back from foot injury, but he's been pretty reliable for a left tackle, which is playing, I would argue to you, probably the 3rd or 4th hardest position in the NFL to play. I think defensive ends is quarterback is clearly hard. Defensive ends is hard, and cornerback is a really hard job. And after that, I mean, I'm gonna have to go with a Raekwon Davis because I've said from the very beginning that Raekwon has the most talent out of everybody, not including Tua. Tua's clearly blessed. Raekwon's got ability that you can't coach up. I mean, you just can't put that in every player. Now, the question is, can a coach get it to come out of him on a regular basis 30 times a game? I don't want Raekwon playing 50 snaps. I want him playing 30 snaps and giving me 25 snaps of elite play. All I need him to do is blow up first down every single game. Blow up first down every single game. Just destroy whatever the team plans to do. And I think you have a victory there. So to me, it's a lot of pressure being placed on him in my mind because I think he's the missing ingredient for this defense.
Yeah, Austin Jackson's the plug-and-play rookie. He came right in, put him at left tackle, and until he got hurt, that first opening stretch of the year, he was very good. As a rookie left tackle. And the first play against Denver, Bradley Chubb got by him for a sack. And it's hard to know where we're at. Is he completely healthy? Not that anybody is, but especially for a rookie, that's another issue they got to deal with. So he's the best rookie, and then it's a little disappointing. Nobody else has really, and I'm not going down the conclusion route here, but you'd hope somebody would have surprised you. One of the other rookies would have
Solomon Kinley, Robert Hunt.
Yeah, and I mean they've had their moments, but at the same time they've also Hunt and Kinley have never really consistently said, "I'm the guy to put there. Just leave me there at my position on the offensive line," and because they've been in and out of the lineup by coaches' decisions.
Performance decisions, really.
Yeah, I mean, right. The coaches decide the performance. Brandon Jones is good games, and especially where he was picked. That's looks to be. But there is, we're in the development stage still, and you would hope that Austin Jackson certainly has shown that okay, you can see he could have a nice NFL career. But there hasn't been anybody else who stepped in and said, okay, he could be a rock he can build around for a while.
You know what's interesting about this and these past 2 years? They've always talked about rookies taking that next step on their second season, and you're seeing a lot of rookies from last year's class take that next step. The Christian Wilkins, the Andrew Van Ginkels, the Myles Gaskin. You're seeing a lot of guys from last year's class take that next step, and I think if these guys take that next step next year, yeah, we might have something to build on. But right now, in terms of rookie performances, I'd say it's okay. I mean, we haven't seen Noah Igbenogany in God knows how many weeks outside, especially, and it's valid, it's justified. But that was a high draft pick that you really wanted to see contribution from. But to the coach's credit, and I respect this coaching staff because they go based on performance. You perform on practice, you play. That's just consistent with Brian Flores. And Nick Superstar Needham, he's taking his game up to another level. So I'm proud of him in terms of what he's done. That's another guy, second-year guy, who's really coming up.
Well, and that's really not just drafting, but it's developing the players, okay? That's what you hope this coaching staff can do, is develop players. Because we really, whether they were bad drafts or bad player development, sometimes it's hard to separate the two. But you didn't see in previous years enough players develop. And for whatever reason, maybe they were bad picks. But, Nick Needham, you've seen a lot of undrafted guys contribute, and especially as they get some coaching. So that's a good sign of this coaching staff.
This was supposed to be our second rookie quarterback showdown, Dave. Tua Tagovailoa has already beat Justin Herbert, the Los Angeles Chargers superstar, who everybody says, hey, Dolphins should have picked him over Tua. I don't see that many wins on Herbert's docket there. But on Sunday, we were supposed to get the showdown with Joe Burrow, the #1 overall pick, but Burrow suffered a season-ending knee injury 2 weeks ago after being sacked a gazillion times in his rookie season. Dave, what lessons from the Bengals can the Dolphins take and apply to Tua's career?
Simple. Help him out. He was sacked 32 times this year, and he was hit a lot more. They relied on him way too much for a rookie quarterback and let him take a beating. And guys were saying around the league in September, he's going to get hurt if he keeps getting hit like that. And that's the #1 lesson. And it's very, it's not a surprising lesson, but that's the #1 lesson. You got to help your quarterback either through protection, through play calling, however you're going to do it. You got to help a young quarterback, especially, to survive. And unfortunately, Joe Burrow didn't. And that's really, it's bad for everybody across the league, because you wanted to see Joe Burrow stay healthy at least and have a chance to, further what he did in college and really what he did at the start of the year. He brought some excitement to the league.
To me, the most important lesson is Ryan Finley's your backup quarterback in Cincinnati right now. How confident are you if you're a Bengals fan? Draft a quarterback. I know you got Tua. I know you're invested in Tua. I know you love Tua. But you know what? There's a chance that he's going to miss 5 games a season. Draft a young quarterback that you want to develop. Maybe he turns out and becomes a Kirk Cousin, and you just never have to look back. You never know what happens. Why shouldn't you invest a draft pick having a young player who wants to develop and have them compete? No shame in competitions. Make a quarterback earn their job. I hate that scared mentality that, oh, we got our quarterback. We got Ryan Tannehill. We don't never ever need to draft another quarterback. For 8 years? Come on, man. Like, you could do better than that. And then you're stuck in this position.
That was 7 years, wasn't it, Omar? Was it 8? Oh my God!
We missed a year because of the injury. Yes, but correct. Yes,
you're right.
It's you know that era traumatized me, Dave.
Yeah, I know, Omar. The Blue U has our next one. The Bengals allow almost 3.5 sacks per game and are -5 in turnover differential. Are we in for another feast day for the Dolphin defense, or is it a trap game? They're looking ahead to those Chiefs.
I am sure, absolutely certain, Brian Flores is painting it as a trap game from this standpoint. I mean, if there is a trap game on the schedule, this is it, correct? Right, Dave?
They're not good enough to have trap games. I'm sorry, they're not.
Well, I mean, Denver kind of snuck up on them.
Well, they played bad. They played bad. But was that because they were looking ahead to the Jets?
No. So a trap game needs the next opponent to be the big daddy?
That's the idea of the trap, isn't it? They were looking ahead and they missed the trap.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what I always thought it meant.
I think, you know what I think, and this is not going to be a popular opinion. I'm not afraid to give unpopular opinions because, that's just what I do, Dave. I think that the fact that teams have had to dial down their practice preparation and for games because of COVID, teams aren't allowed to be inside the building for anything but practices as of a week ago. Now this week, nobody can be in the building Monday and Tuesday because of concerns about COVID escalating from the Thanksgiving weekend. So the first day anybody gets in the building is Wednesday to prepare for a Sunday game. Dave, I'm sorry, but if we're doing everything remotely, and we are doing everything remotely, isn't our remote work kind of watering down our ability to do our job properly, Dave?
Well, it is for us. It is, that's for sure.
So how are you? Yeah. So
we can't get out and work a locker room. We're at the mercy of the teams to give us players.
Thank you. Preach, Dave.
A conversation with players. So yes, from Zoom, yes, but you make do. If my issue with the Monday and Tuesday off isn't that, it's so 2 days off is going to turn around the virus and make it go run home? I mean, what is that? I mean,
it's gonna prevent you from having what the Baltimore Ravens are having. I hate to laugh, but it's
8 straight days of positive tests. But it's not going to. So hopefully it helps in some way. But you're seeing now what playing in the middle of a pandemic, what the problems are. You're seeing them. I mean, Denver without quarterbacks, Baltimore playing on a Wednesday after the game skipped from Thursday to Sunday to Tuesday. Now it's on Wednesday afternoon. To San Francisco having to move to Arizona. I mean, those are legitimate issues for some franchise. The Dolphins, so far, have been in the fortunate pile where it's only been minor issues.
It is for Tua's practicing today. Tua's going. Obviously, we all expected Tua to go. And let me finish giving you the practice report. Lead me into the next question, Dave, and I'll
all right. This question comes from Virgil. Is this a possible audition for Joe Mixon, who is going to become a free agent this offseason? Could he possibly impress Chris Greer and Brian Flores? And you look, they're going to be in the market for a running back. The question is, where and how, and considering they have a lot of draft picks, how's the draft stack up for them? But Joe Mixon, I haven't really paid much attention to him this year, but he has shown signs.
Yeah,
being talented, but there's also a reason that teams passed on him. So,
absolutely in the draft, and then not just that, but there's going to be a ton of avenues and ways to address this running back situation. To me, you need, Leonard Fournette and Le'Veon Bell are two players that this team kind of flirted with in the offseason, and the evaluators have their eye in terms of them being the perfect fit for this RPO off. Come on, Dave.
They haven't done anything, Omar.
No, they aren't doing anything, which means they won't be that expensive. Which means
2 or 3 years. That's forever for a running back, right? Is Le'Veon Bell tearing it up this year?
He's a backup in Kansas City. He went to go get a ring. No shame in that, Dave.
But if he was that good, he wouldn't be back. He'd be.
They're the Kansas City Chiefs. They got their backups would start for Miami. Let's be real about it.
Leonard Fournette. Jacksonville didn't want him. I'm just saying. He's not a receiving back at all. He's a first and second down.
So you just want a young rookie, unproven, untested.
No, I want someone who is going to come in and you're not on the backside of a good career, and that's what Le'Veon Bell and Leonard Fournette to me sound like. Now I often see more of Le'Veon Bell in Kansas City because, again, whenever I see him, he's not on the field. So I mean, there must be a reason for that.
I will say this: the Dolphins' free agent ventures at the running back position, they didn't work out this year. Lesson learned. I think we know a little bit better about the skill sets that they need, but they also need, power back to finish out games. Now, what's interesting is running back DeAndre Washington's missing. He had a good game, and now he's missing practice. But lo and behold, they're getting Myles Gaskins back. Salvon Ahmed is practicing where that will lead to the game. But clearly, there's no question in my mind. You go get a free agent running back and you go draft a running back and you figure it out during practice. Who it'll be, I don't think it'll be Joe Mixon, but I definitely know that they need help. Pizza has our final question, Dave. Jesse Bates and Von Bell are good safety combo. They probably basically all that the Cincinnati Bengals got going right now. How do we best attack them? How do you attack them, Dave, with this watered down, injury depleted, inexperienced wide receiver unit?
Well, I mean, let's face it, the Bengals are giving up points, right? Their pass defense is in the bottom third of the league. So it's not like these two good safeties are capable of saving this defense. All right. So I haven't sat there and looked at the tape of the Bengals. All I know is you look at the stats, they're giving up plays and they're giving up points. So there are obvious places to attack, even if you stay away from the safeties.
Yeah, we talked about this before the show. This coaching staff has hinted from Chan Gailey to Brian Flores about Devontae Parker moving inside to the slot. If Malcolm Perry doesn't play, we've been on this all season, and it's one of the bigger issues for me. And even, in fact, I asked Brian Flores about the slot position because something he said to me last week kind of confused me. Like, you come from the New England Patriots, and his quote, I don't know if I'm taking him out of context, but he doesn't necessarily believe in the slot player. He
doesn't believe a receiver has to be typecast as a slot receiver, I guess would be the way to say it, that he could play other places too.
And he believes that position he looks at that as a numbers position from the field. It's inside the hash, and you could use a running back, you could use a tight end, you could use a wide receiver, you could use a number position. I understand now more his thought process now that he explained it. And from a defensive standpoint, he's always looking at things from a defensive standpoint, so I get it. However, they are missing a player with a very specific skill set, which is to drop down into zones, read the coverage quickly, get to the right zones, become quarterback friendly. Tua needs it. Tua definitely, absolutely, without a question, needs it. And the Dolphins are hinting that Devontae Parker might have to evolve into that position. I understand why they're hinting it, because if you look at what they have available at receiver, Mac Hollins is an outside receiver. Antonio Callaway is an outside receiver. Jakeem Grant is an outside receiver. They're basically all flankers. And you need somebody to be quarterback friendly. If Malcolm Perry isn't available, they got to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, and how they've made it work this year, a lot of times, if there's one group of receivers having a good year, it's the tight ends.
Yes.
I mean, look at they really Chan Gailey has found a way to incorporate 3 tight ends at times, and all of them are being productive. And you know, that if ways to make up for not having a pure slot receiver, or really having a lot at the boundary receivers, the wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real about this. Mike Gesicki is a slot receiver. He's a
that's right, absolutely. He's not. He is a receiving tight end.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's, you know, play to his strength. But also the other 2 tight ends, they're finding nice roles for them in the receiving game as well.
Yes. And Gesicki creates these matchup problems that, are you going to put a nickel on him? Are you going to put a linebacker on him? It's a troubling issue, and a lot of times teams have to put a safety on him. So we're at the prediction point of this show. Dave, I'll go first. I don't think that this should be a game like the Miami Hurricanes when they're playing Appalachian State, and I'm probably choosing the wrong team, or Florida A&M. Let me put the sword on my rattlers. You need to work on things that you're not good at. If there was any game for the Miami Dolphins to brush up on their run game and figure out what they're going to do in that slot position for the rest of the season, or find quarterback-friendly targets for Tua, it's this game. If there's anything that I want the Dolphins to walk away from this game against the Bengals with, it's a run identity. It's to work on their run game, because in these December games, in this stretch of the season, in the playoffs, you're going to need it. And right now, you don't have it. So I'm predicting a 21-13 Miami Dolphins win. I'm not padding up the score, because you know what? I want them to run the ball 30 times.
Well, I'm going to pad it up a little, Omar. I'm going to go 28-13. Look, this is a game when you look at the Dolphins. Okay, work on the offense if that's what the defense should dominate this game. Okay, against a backup quarterback. This is a team that the last 3 games, 10 points against a good Steeler defense, 9 points against Washington, 17 points against the New York Giants. So it doesn't put up points especially without Joe Burrow. And so you have a good defense. This defense should dominate this game. And okay, go ahead and work on your running game if you want, but it should be a game where, sort of like what was the game, the Chargers, where they came out and they got a big lead. The defense made some big plays, special teams, big plays, and got a nice lead, and didn't ask the offense to do a whole lot. I see it setting up in a similar way.
Well, hopefully that whole lot is work on your run game. Figure it out. Always appreciate you guys coming to watch X and Omar. For those who watch it live, salute to you. Those who watch it on YouTube, especially our European fans who are blocked out from watching anything Sentinel, we appreciate you coming and watching the show. And you can find X and Omar on all podcast streaming sites that you have, Apple Play, Android, Google, whatever. I don't know. However you find your podcast, it's there. Just search for X's and Omar. Dave, appreciate you, and I will see you on Sunday.
All right, Omar.
Very clean show.
You ready for some Wednesday afternoon football, Omar?